Media and our sports show, Nathan Sports Rush, back with another episode. Happy Thursday. I hope everyone is having a great day today. We're already almost at midway January of 2025, so it's going quick by the minute. But we are live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, on all the podcast platforms. And fans, you already know about our speaker app. You can tune into the app and put your questions in the app for every guest that we have on the show. But before we introduce today's guest, I just want to say we had some tragic news a couple days, obviously, with the Los Angeles wildfires going on, and my prayers and thoughts are with the families down there in Los Angeles. And also yesterday we lost another player in the baseball world, Brian Mattis, former MLB pitcher. Rest in peace. And so my prayers and thoughts are with him. Just devastating to see what happened, to see that. And like I said, my prayers and thoughts with everyone right now that is going through a lot of things. But today's guest, we have Brandon Barnes. He's a former MLB outfielder. Man, in my opinion, he was an underrated player in the league. He played with a few different teams in his career, with the Houston Astros, with the Colorado Rockies, with the Cleveland Guardians. Back in the day was Indians, but now Guardians. And then he also got some playing time in the KBO League, which is interesting, and we'll get to all that, his career journey. Now he's doing big things off the field. He's trying to be an analyst, breaking into to be an analyst. He posts videos on his social media all the time, and he breaks down the game really well. And man, Brandon Barnes, I just want to say thank you for joining the show, and can't wait to learn more about your journey and story. And fans, like I said, put your questions into the app. We'll answer some of your questions if we have time. But Brandon, thank you for joining. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the family.
Oh man, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's a blast, and I love just coming on and talking baseball and talking the game and interacting with the fans. I love that you guys have questions coming in from the fans.
Yeah, thank you. But before we get to your journey, can you you mentioned to me before the show is that you ran into Brian Mattis a few times, but let's talk about him as a pitcher, and then from afar and seeing him go about his business on the field, off the field, and unfortunately we lost him yesterday. But let's talk about his character in the game.
Yeah, it's always tough because of the baseball is such a brotherhood. It's such a small group of guys. If you look at everything's that there's 30 teams with all these guys, but it's truly a small brotherhood. That's where you see guys before and after games giving each other hugs. We just it's a very small brotherhood, and so you get to know guys and play against guys constantly. And seeing Brian, the way he competed and what he did for the community in Baltimore, just talked a lot. It says a lot about his character and who he was as not only a player, but a man off the field. I think he did a lot for that community, the fan base, and to see something tragic, 38 years old, gone way too soon. The impact he left was huge. But yeah, it's just, it's tough when you see things like that. We lost Pete Rose this year.
Yeah.
We lost Ricky Henderson. Now Brian Mattis. It's a tough hit for the brotherhood, but we try to look at these guys' legacy that they left behind and the impact they left behind and continue to lift that up.
Yeah, and we lost a lot of legends in the baseball world, and it's just crazy to see that happening. But uh, but for you, I want to talk about your career, and you were born in Orange, California. So talk about your early life growing up there, and when did you get into playing baseball?
Oh, playing baseball, man, since the day I could walk, pretty much. I remember my earliest memories were with like a wiffle ball and a wiffle ball bat in my hands in the front yard of my grandfather's house, just taking hacks. Growing up in Southern California was awesome. You got sunshine all year long. You get to play the sports all year long, and it's just a hotbed for athletes. So you're constantly competing against some of the best guys across the nation. And then, growing up, it was, sports was life. Literally, I played basketball, football, baseball, soccer, you name it, I was playing it. It was just something that I believed in, that to be a really good athlete, you got to be multidimensional. And you learn different things through playing different sports and how your body moves, how it can move better and more efficiently. So for me, playing multiple sports really helped until I got to be about, I would say, freshman in high school is when I really dove into just football and baseball. And that was kind of like my path to college. It was more football than it was baseball early on. So in high school, I devoted actually more time to football than I did to baseball, and I actually quit baseball my senior year of high school.
Wow. Interesting. You were like Bo Jackson back in the day, football and
Man,
baseball.
man, I looked up to my two favorite athletes of all time are Deion Sanders and Bo Jackson.
Oh wow.
Obviously, both those guys played, the highest level in both sports. And growing up, I was a Niners fan because I watched Deion do his thing, and then as soon as Deion left San Fran and went to Dallas, I was like, I'm out. I'm a Dallas fan now. So I followed them. Those were the two guys that are like living legends in my sports world.
Uh, so you went to high school in it's called Catella High School in Anaheim, California. But you played travel baseball with Phil Hughes and Mark Trumbo. So talk about that experience. Like, what was that playing travel baseball with those two players who had major league experience also?
Yeah, so we had a pretty solid team. I played for the OC Angels, I think when I was like 14 or 15. Trumbo actually played for a different team, but we played against each other all the time. I got to see guys like Trumbo and Conger. I played on the same team with Phil, and the
Sure.
funny thing is back then when we played together, that was before Phil hit his big growth spurt. I think he grew like 4 or 5 inches and started pumping 95 in high school. And I still tell guys today, like, we had Phil, but Phil wasn't our best pitcher on the team at that time.
Hmm.
Phil was probably our best hitter at the time. He was
Oh
bigger
wow.
than everybody. He was stronger. He just didn't develop his arm yet. He hadn't had that growth spurt for his arm. But getting to play against these guys constantly, that's what I'm talking about. Is in Southern California, you're in the hotbed. You're playing against dudes that you're playing a team of 15 guys. There's a chance that one of those guys is going to make it to college,
Mhm.
get to go into pro ball, and possibly play in the big leagues.
Wow. So we are live with former MLB outfielder Brandon Barnes. We already have a fan question for you on my app. One of our fans wants to know for you, what was it like experiencing the journey as a player in the major leagues? And they want to know the experience of traveling to different teams and going to and moving to different teams because it's part of business. So they want to know the
Yeah, it's
process. Yeah.
yeah, it's a journey for sure. I came up with the same team in Houston. I got drafted by them in '05. Played there for man from '05 to the 13 season, and then got traded. And the first time you get traded, I spent 8 years at one place. I grew up being a Houston Astro. I became a man there.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day they're like, "Hey," I was on a flight, and they called me, and they're like, "Hey, you just got traded to Colorado. Thank you for your service. Best of luck in your new journey." And that was it. So it was just, it's quick, it's done. It's like move on. And the journey is like, okay, I get to go play with, and I looked at the roster. Okay, everybody knew who was on the Rockies at that time. We had guys like Tulo, Cargo, Charlie Blackmon, Nolan Arenado, Corey Dickerson, who ended up blowing up. And then we had Michael Kadire, Justin Morneau, like dudes, right? Like guys that are just studs. And so I was excited to go learn from those guys. I think that was the cool thing is every time I went to a new team, there was always someone's brain I wanted to pick. When I went to Cleveland, I always wanted to pick Francisco Lindor and Michael Brantley's brain. Those guys were some of the best hitters in the game. Michael Brantley being Dr. Smooth. I wanted to just learn as much as I could from him on preparation and his batting technique and style. So for me, the journey was always fun, and there wasn't a whole lot of anxiety because I'd also played against these guys for years. So you become friends with them before you are a part of the team. But guys, like when I went to Cleveland, I already knew Jason Kipnis for like 10 years. We
Mm-hmm.
played in the fall league together. We, stayed in contact. So it was always fun getting to play for a different team and then experiencing that with some of your friends.
Yeah, speaking of Houston, you spent throughout your whole career with Houston, pretty. I mean, not whole career. I meant like a long majority of your career with Houston, and you got to play with some fantastic players. But what was it like playing with Altuve? Because this guy is a machine, and he's still going at it strong with the same team. But just talk about what was it like being Altuve's teammate in Houston?
The best. I've known Altuve since he was about 17, 18 years old. We played together for the first time in High A, Lancaster, California. I remember this day like it was yesterday. He got called up from A ball, and I was like, "Who is this little dude?" He's like 5'5", 5'6". And everybody was just like, "This dude rakes. Like, watch him hit the ball." And back then, he wasn't a big power hitter. He was more spray the ball around the ballpark, get tons of hits, steal bases. And I remember the first night he got called up with us, He came in, he started at second base, and it was the bottom of the ninth, and bases were juiced. He comes up, and I'm like, this little dude's just going to get a base hit, game over, we win. Guy goes yard, hits a homer for a walk-off homer, his first game with us. And I was like, this guy's going to be special. And then I got to watch him just progress over the next couple of years to get to the big leagues, and then to be his teammate in the big leagues. He's one of the guys I've known the longest in my career, and we still chat to this day. We still text and talk to each other over Instagram. I couldn't be more excited for the player and person he is and he's become, because he's just a great human being. And then you look at his backstory of the Astros held a tryout in Venezuela, and they told him to go home. They
Hmm.
said, you'll never play in the big leagues. We're not going to take a chance on you. And so the next day he came back. He wasn't going to take no for an answer. One guy saw him and gave him that opportunity, and he flourished. He took full control of it and said, I'm not going to stop until I get there.
Wow. That's amazing. And I mean, obviously, in the year when they were going through that thing with the trash can, but that he's after all in that, but he's a respectable person in the league and one of the best players, obviously, to play the game, and is still going at it strong. But we found another interesting tidbit about you. You actually signed a letter to UCLA to play football, but you withdrew because of a coaching change. So talk about that process and what was that like? And then after you, is that when you chose baseball after that situation?
Yeah, that was the turning point in my career when I transferred to baseball. My senior year, it was a big year for me. I knew my parents couldn't pay for college, so I knew my way to college was playing football and to get a scholarship. And so I committed to UCLA early on in my senior year, like right after season. And I took my when I took my recruiting trip, Adrian Peterson was there, Maurice
Oh,
Jones-Drew, Mercedes Lewis, and so I saw all these guys. I saw Adrian Peterson when he was 18. This guy was like 6'2", 220, and I'm like 6'1", 175 pounds soaking wet. I could run, but I got to tackle this guy. This guy's gonna kill me.
hmm,
Maurice Jones-Drew's a little bowling ball, like 5'7", 230, gonna run you over. You can't get lower than him. Mercedes Lewis is 6'7". Like I realized real quick how I needed to get bigger, faster, and stronger. So that's when I decided to quit baseball. And then shoot, like 4 months later, they had a coaching change, and the new coach decided that he wanted to get his own recruits. And so if you weren't a five-star blue chip recruit, you were gone. So I was out. Like I didn't know what to do. I was going to go to a junior college, play football, transfer out the next year. I actually had teams like USC coming to look at me, Colorado State. But while I was working out with the JUCO team, I decided to play in a tournament with my buddies
hmm.
for baseball. We ended up going to the World Series. I hit 8 home runs in like 10 games. And one of my buddies was like, dude, you need to play baseball. Like you've always been born, you were born to play this game. So you know what? If I'm meant to play this game, I'm going to pray about it tonight. And if I wake up the next morning, God wants me to play baseball, I'm going to have that on my mind. So that next morning, I woke up and the only thing on my mind was, I want to play baseball.
Hmm.
So I decided to leave the junior college that I was at, transfer without ever having a tryout, not knowing the coach, and just basically leaning into my faith and saying, if this is what God wants me to do, I'm going to do it. Ended up getting a tryout, ended up making the fall roster, played on the fall. I did really well, enough to stay on the team. Ended up getting an opportunity to play in like the third game, got 2 hits, and never came out of the lineup after that point, and then was drafted in the sixth round by the Houston Astros.
Wow. Hmm. What a crazy story there. We have another fan question for you on the app here on my phone. They want to know who are some of the toughest pitchers that you have to face in your career.
Yeah, so when we were coming up with Houston, my that 2013 season, we opened up against Yu Darvish.
Hmm.
Yu Darvish almost threw, I think, a perfect game into the last out of the game where Marwin Gonzalez hit a base hit between his legs. But Yu was one of those guys that just all his pitches, everything looked the same coming out of his hand. And I probably got 1 hit off him in my entire career facing him, and it was a homer, right? Like a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. So he was one of the tougher ones. And then when I went to Colorado, obviously the GOAT, Clayton Kershaw, was, I mean, I think I was like 2 for 20 or 2 for 30 off him in my career. So those were probably the two guys that like owned me. And then Chris Sale was always tough to hit off, man. That lefty slinger with that slider, it's nasty. Back footing you, throwing 95 to 97, just lanky arm coming halfway down the mound, dominant. And it was good to see him make a big comeback this
Yeah.
past year.
And he that was a big trade for the Braves when they made it the last offseason and to strengthen their rotation and now him with the full the full season he had and now I'm looking forward to see what he does the next year. I mean this year coming up, in my opinion.
Yeah, he looked like the pitcher of the past that he's
Yeah.
always been. I know he dealt with some stuff in Boston. He wasn't fully happy with what he was doing there, but the Braves took a chance on him. They gave him new life, and he took full authority of that and went after and did what he does.
All right, I want to get to this fun part here. Tell our fans. So the one thing I love about baseball, it's a long season, but uh, when you guys are facing each other, you guys have fun still. So I want to get to this one game against the Nationals. You and Aaron Barrett were facing off. So I was looking at this video, but you guys were facing off, doing some fun things. But talk about what's it like just to be having a long season, but you still interact with the opposing teams during a regular season game. What's that like?
Yeah, I grew up always saying like this is a child's game. You get to play this game. It's a kid's game that grown adults are playing. And I always thought this game should be fun because if you put too much pressure on it, it becomes a job. It doesn't become fun. So why not play like a kid, like I did when I was in Little League?
Yeah.
And so I always just was a guy that was full of energy, loved being on the field, and always wanted to give the fans a show or know that my teammates knew that I was going to bring the energy that day. And so, man, it was later in the season. It's hot. Like guys didn't want to be there during a day game after a night game. And so I just thought I would bring a little bit of life to the team and to the fans and like, let's get this going early. So me and Aaron kind of linked eyes and we're like, you want to do it? And so we did it. And I'm going to give myself credit because I was all the way out on the line
Yeah.
where Aaron was back by the dugout. So of course the umpire's going to sit there and yell at me. He warned me. He's like, if you don't get back into the dugout, you're going to get ejected. So I looked at my manager, was like, do you need me today? He's like, yeah, I need you. So that's how I succeeded and Aaron won. But he was a lot closer to the dugout.
Wow. Yeah. So, speaking of Colorado, what was it like being part of that team? You put it Nolan Arenado, one of the best third basemen to play, and he's now still playing in the league, with the Cardinals. But talk about what was it playing at Coors Field and playing in front of those fans in Colorado.
Man, first thing I could say is Colorado fans are some of the best fans. We didn't have great years,
Mm,
but they showed up day after day, rooting on the team. They wanted us to win. They wanted to let us know that the city's behind us. And I couldn't be more grateful for the fans and the people there. That really made me feel like that was a second home for me. And then, we talked about a little bit of the guys I got to play with, but getting to watch Nolan Arenado do what he does on a daily basis with the glove and the bat, it was something I'd never seen before. Like you talk about one of the best third basemen of all time. This guy's competing with Brooks Robinson as being one of the top third basemen of all time. That's legendary status. And this doesn't happen by just genetics or luck. Like watching Nolan work the way he does day in and day out in spring training, those plays he makes at third base, those aren't just one-off plays. He practices those plays in spring training during the season. And then, Carlos Gonzalez, one of my best friends, to see him on the Hall of Fame ballot this year, like that's a win in itself. That's a beautiful thing. That's, not everybody gets the opportunity to do. Amazing guy, amazing career, one of the sweetest swings in the game. Like
mm,
I just was amazed. Like every time I got to sit and watch that guy hit, it was like I was a kid again. And then just everything, I got to see the intensity of Tulo every day,
yeah.
the calmness of DJ LeMahieu, and the mind of like Michael Kadire and Justin Morneau. I picked brains. I wanted to learn as much. I knew I wasn't as gifted in baseball as some of these guys, so I just wanted to soak in as much knowledge and then bring the energy every day, be a role player, so that these guys knew that if it was my time to go, I was ready to go, and I got your back.
I mean, you like I said earlier, you were underrated in the league, in my opinion. You brought toughness, the energy to the teams, and whenever you played when you were playing, you produced in a big way for these teams. And you mentioned Carlos Gonzalez. What a great career, amazing player, and obviously being in the Hall of Fame ballot. I'm happy for him, and I'm happy for this ballot. I love this ballot. I saw the list, man. A lot of great names on this ballot. So for him to be part of it, it's extra special for the fans in Colorado. And I feel like the Rockies are up in the right direction, so I can hopefully they can compete soon in the National League. But tell our fans, I want to get to your one of your other best moments in your career, hitting for the cycle on July 19, 2013. So talk about that. Tell our fans what was that like? How did you feel going into that game? And you can't predict anything, but what was that? What was your feeling like in that game?
Yeah, so everybody knows I wasn't the greatest hitter. You know, you look at my stat lines over the year, I was like a 240, 230 hitter. But I was going to compete every day. I was going to give you tough at bats. And I remember it was the day back from the All-Star. It was the first game back from the All-Star break. Before the All-Star break, we were in Tampa Bay. I was with a bunch of guys from Tampa Bay and our team. We like to do ministry. We like to talk about our faith. And I just remember praying that night with a group of guys, friends of mine. And I went back to my room, and I mean, I couldn't hit water if I fell at a boat at that moment. Like I could not hit the ball. I was struggling. And that night I went back to bed after we prayed, and I heard God speak to me the first time in my life and said, I've got your back over and over and over till about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Hmm.
And I remember calling my wife in the morning, like, hey, this is what just happened to me. I'm going to come home and I'm not going to pick up a bat. Like, I just want to spend time with you guys. Me and my wife had been trying to have our second child for a very long time, and it just wasn't working. So we were just like, we're just going to take a break from everything and be together. So we get back to Houston, first game's against Seattle. And I'm just like, I'm just gonna go play the game I love. And first at bat, I hit a homer. I was like, no way. Like, this is crazy. I haven't picked up a bat in 3 days. Like, what is going on? Second at bat, triple right center. Third at bat, CNI single. I come up for my fourth at bat. I'm like, I know what I need. I'm pretty sure everybody in the ballpark knew exactly what I needed. And I was like, if I hit something decent, I'm going. I'm not stopping. And I hit a ball right down the right field line. And we just got new padding on the fence, so it ricocheted perfectly to the right fielder. I was like, I'm going. And Dave Clark at first base was just waving me. He's like, go, go, go. So I took off, dove in as hard as I could, called me safe, and I just remember getting up, fist pumping, the crowd going crazy. And I was like, there's no way I just did this in the big leagues. Like, this is more rare than like a no-hitter, a perfect game. Like, this doesn't happen. And I was thankful in that moment for the people that have put me in that position, that trusted in me to play in the big leagues. And then we get home that night, and my wife calls me into the bathroom, and she's like, she had little sticky letters on the bathroom wall that said, "I'm going to be a big sister."
Oh wow.
So not only did I hit for the cycle, but after we'd been struggling to have our second child, we actually found out that same night that we were having our second child. So when God says He had my back, He truly did. And from that point, I just let it go and let my faith take control of my career.
All right, I'm going to tell my team to clip this part and then that's amazing. That's a great story. That's a story that you will never forget in your life, and that's amazing. That's truly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one moment that me and my wife probably we talk about more than anything. It was just a blessing. Like, we've leaned on our faith our whole career. And she's been with me since I was 18 years old. Like, she's
Wow.
ridden this roller coaster with me. So to be in that moment together and experience that together I'll never forget it.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, so we have another fan question here for you. They want to know your thoughts on this year's offseason so far. And there's still a lot of names out there in the free agent market, like Rory Sasaki is another one big name still out there that everybody's wanted to see. But talk about what your general, obviously Alex Bregman is still out there, but
Yeah.
talk about your thoughts so far. And they want to know your thoughts so far.
Yeah, so I think the Yankees are having a very sneaky offseason picks, getting Bellinger, Max Fried, like they got some dudes. I think if I was in, they picked up Goldschmidt too, right?
Yeah.
Just solidified first base for them for the next couple of years. I think if the Yankees are smart and they want to compete and beat the Dodgers next year, they need to go get a guy like Nolan Arenado.
Ooh,
He's out there. Like he's saying, I want to go play for a contender.
yeah,
I think a team like Boston could use him. You know, the shortstop in Boston is his old teammate, Trevor Story. So a guy like Arenado, you're going to get one of the best third basemen in the game who can still produce. He just had a down year. You look at Alex Bregman, another one of the top third basemen of the game, who is not only just a leader on the field, but he's a leader in the clubhouse. He expects things to be done the right way. So when you bring that guy into a clubhouse, that changes your atmosphere. It changes the team, the dynamic in it. He's going to push guys to be better. Boston can go get this guy. Boston needs this guy. But we'll see. I think Houston should resign him if they want to continue to be dominant in the AL West. And then we talk about the pitching out there. You just saw it the other day. Verlander went to the
yep.
Giants. I think that's huge for them.
I like that move. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's good. You know, even if Verlander isn't the old version, the Cy Young version of himself, if he is better than he was last year, he's going to bring more to that team, that rotation, just by his knowledge and his experience and his leadership. So it's going to be exciting to see what's going to go on these next couple of weeks. I think there's a lot of moving pieces, but I mean, we got Santander still out there,
Yeah.
right? Like, how is that guy not signed? Switch
I,
hitting outfielder that hits for power. Somebody sign this guy. Let's go.
I mean, there's a and also do you think Alex Bregman could be a fit for the Yankees?
Ooh, I think so. I think the Yankees need to solidify that third base spot. You know, I think with them getting Goldie at one corner, getting another power bat, solid bat at third base is going to really solidify that infield and make them just that much better.
Wow. So for you, I want to transition from your major league career to the KBO league, and for you, you got some experience in the KBO league, and now you see players from that league getting posted and coming to the majors. But for you, what was that like for you and your family going over there and then experiencing that league, a different culture and a different mindset?
Yeah, one thing I always wanted to do in my career was play overseas, whether it be winter ball or another professional league. I got an opportunity early in my career to play winter ball in Australia. Then I played in Venezuela. I've played in Mexico, and then, I've always wanted to finish my career either in Japan or Korea. And getting that opportunity during COVID, when we weren't really playing baseball in the States, I was like, yeah, let's do it. I don't know how much longer. I was 34 at the time. I don't know how much longer my career is going to last. Let's go try something different. Let's go have fun. Let's go play the game that you love. And that's the type of energy and style I brought over there. But I think for me, the people of Korea, the way they love the game, it's different than the States.
Yeah.
These guys, these fans are in the game every moment, cheering. You know, they know your walk-up song by heart, so they're singing it when you're walking up to the plate. Like they truly care about their players, and it's just not like a fair weather fan. It's we're all in all the time, and it's the food was awesome, the people were amazing. I love the culture. It was just a blast. I wish that my family could have come over with me. I would have put my kids in school out there, learn another language. But there's
Hmm.
just a tons of different opportunities for players to live a different culture and a different life, so you learn a lot more things.
And talk and also the how long did it take? So when it came to the language barrier, for you, what was it like for you with the language?
Yeah, you kind of get a gist of like what other players do when they come to the
Yeah.
States. You know, Dominicans, Venezuelans, um, Japanese player, Korean player. You get a kind of you see that inside of what they have to deal with on a daily basis with their language barrier. And so it was nice because I had a translator. I had a guy that was always with me translating for me, but I wanted to learn and be able to talk to my teammates. So I would try to learn a little bit. It's a tough language to learn, but it was cool being to dive into a different culture and different language.
We have another fan question for you. They want to know what was your favorite ballpark to play in?
Ooh, that's a good one. So I grew up in Anaheim, California. Always said I wanted to play in Angel Stadium, and getting that opportunity was a dream come true. So that for me is one of my favorite places to play because every time I got to play there, I had 40, 50 people that I knew at the game, my friends, my family, my community. So that for me was a big one. And then you talk about the history of the game. For me, Fenway Park
Mm,
is synonymous for that. that is legendary baseball. The legends that have come through there, that have played there, and then the seventh inning stretch, you got Sweet Caroline. Like I get chills just thinking about that. So I would say Fenway was probably my more infamous stadium that I got to play at.
Yeah, so speaking of managers, the other day I had Clint Hurdle on the show, which was amazing, and that was an honor talking to him. But for you, what was it like for you to learn from the managers that you had in your career? Like in Colorado, you had Walt Weiss, but going through your career, what was it like learning from the managers that you had in your career?
Yeah, it's every manager you play for is a different type of manager. The way he interacts with the team, the way he is there and backs up his players, or the way he runs the game, it's all different, right? And you got to take each guy differently. So for me and Walt, we have a really good relationship. I still talk to Walt to this day. I got to play under Brad Mills my first time coming up to the big leagues. Bo Porter my second year with Houston, and then to end my career in the big leagues, my last year getting to play under a guy like Tito.
Mhm.
Like Terry Francona is a legend, and to be able to just see what he does day to day and what he's done in the game and be able to pick his brain and just be a part of that was special. And it was an opportunity to like really dive in and learn.
And I can't wait to see what he does with Cincinnati, man. They got a good one in the red. I think the Reds are gonna be good. I'm telling you, their rosters. I love their you got to start with Ella De La Cruz, man. This guy's electrifying, and I can't wait to see what the Reds do underneath Terry Francona. And speaking of Bo Porter, we actually had Bo Porter on the show a couple years ago. So Bo Porter, man, great manager and great coach too. And for you, we'll take one more fan question here. So they want to know your favorite food and favorite drink.
Oh, favorite food? It's got to be steak. I love all things meat, but a good steak, rare, a little blood, or actually a lot of blood, cooked right.
Yeah.
Like I want my steak still moving. I'm not gonna lie, but for me, a steak is just what my body needs, the nutrients it
Right.
gives. I'm big into health and
Yeah.
fitness, so I'm more of a meat eater. I live kind of carnivore life, so for me, that's probably my meal.
And speaking of nutrition, you're part of a nutrition shop. So talk about that. What was that? What's that? When did you start that company?
Yeah, so NutriShop came to me last year. They kind of just know that I love fitness. I love lifting weights and taking care of my body. And they're a huge company. They've got tons of people and they wanted to bring me on as a NutriShop athlete. And so with that, like I get to share the products I use on a daily basis. And if you're looking to get fit this year for 2025, you're looking to lose weight or gain muscle, you can go use my code B Barnes and get free shipping on all your items. So for me, NutriShop has been a game changer of being with the family of NutriShop and to really dive into my health and fitness.
Wow. So before we let you go, talk about what's it like transitioning from being a baseball player now being trying to get into the analyst job and posting videos all the time. Like we love your videos. You post some great content. So talk about what's that been like for you just to post videos and be on other shows like these.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It was, the last few years, when you leave a game, and I was just talking about this the other days, as I left a game that I had done my entire life. It's the only thing I've ever done. I played baseball for 30 years, 16 years professionally. It's the only thing I ever wanted to do. And when you're younger, you think that's going to last forever. But there's one day that it just stops.
Yeah.
You stop getting the dopamine hit every single night, playing in front of 40,000 people. Your one passion in life is now gone. So trying to find something that fills that void, um, you feel like you can lose yourself a little bit in that. So I really dove in the last couple of years. I was been doing real estate out here in Idaho,
Hmm.
and as much as I love doing that and helping families get into a new home, it's just not who I am. I bleed and live this game. I breathe this game. And so I was talking to a buddy of mine, Xavier Scruggs, who is now
Yeah.
an MLB analyst and broadcaster, really good friend. We played together in Mexico, played against each other a lot. And so I've just been picking his brain because I got to see what he did when he left the game, started creating content, wanted to be an analyst, dove into it fully. and now you see his career thriving as a broadcaster and analyst. So for me, it's like, man, I love the game. I love speaking on the game. I love watching the game. Like this is who I am. So I need to just dive in fully. And if someone gives me an opportunity, lets me get my foot in the door, I'm gonna knock it down and I'm gonna attack it just like the same way I did in my baseball career.
Yeah, speaking of Xavier Suggs, he was also on the show too. It was a couple years ago. So that's a great person to learn from. And like I told you before this, before you came on the show, you deserve a spot on MLB Network. You need to be on MLB Network.
I appreciate that, man. I might be the only fully tattooed dude on the MLB network, but yeah, that's something I dream of. I was just speaking to Carlos Pena
Yeah.
yesterday because I want to pick his brain. I want to understand like what he's doing now. He's been doing this for I don't know, 5 to 10 years now since he retired.
Mhm.
Ryan Spilborghs, who played with Colorado, you see him doing it. Corey Sullivan, like a lot of my buddies are in this. And then I talk about Eduardo Perez. I reach out to Eduardo Perez, who's big in ESPN. He was my bench coach in Houston. We have a really good relationship, and I just want to learn. It's the same way I take trying to be a broadcaster, an analyst, the same way I played the game. I wanted to seek knowledge, learn from guys that are doing it, and just level up my game any way I possibly can. So that is, yeah, getting on more shows, talking more about the game. I still think I need to clean up the way I talk. I got some ums in there, right? So for me, it's do as many of these shows as possible, get on as many podcasts, get out